Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, the governor calls a special session of the legislature after lawmakers failed to pass a bill on Medicaid expansion. We'll have the latest in our weekly legislative update with the Arizona Capital Times. We'll find out how a Tempe company is working to make computer chips and other electronics more efficient, and we'll learn about a local effort to get bio-rubber from a desert plant. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. The governor calls a special session of the legislature to push lawmakers into quicker action on Medicaid expansion and the budget. Here with the latest in our weekly legislative update is Luigi Del Puerto of the Arizona Capital Times. Luigi, always a pleasure. Was this a surprise?
It was a complete surprise. We had expected that after Speaker Andy Tobin said we're not going to meet on Wednesday, we'll meet on Thursday, and then Senate President Andy Biggs will not meet on Thursday, we'll meet on Monday. We expected that nothing would happen on the Medicaid expansion front on the budget this week. And lo and behold, yesterday afternoon, the governor called for a special session. And her call for a special session landed in our mailboxes at 5:01 p.m., at least in my mailbox at 5:01 p.m. That call for a special session was for 5 p.m. that day.
So now, get down there now. And this happened again after Speaker Andy Tobin, he basically adjourned the House until Thursday. Why did he do that?
Well, there are theories that he may be trying to buy time to still work on his proposal to get his budget out. As you know, he's been working to try and get 31 Republicans to support his proposal. The other speculation is that he's trying to poke an eye, essentially poke the governor's eye, and maybe pulling her chain a little bit, and the governor poked back.
And President Andy Biggs of the Senate, he adjourned until next week?
Well, initially he had said that their plan was to adjourn to meet today and then adjourn until Monday, so they're not going to meet on Thursday.
So the governor's tired of all the delays. She finds out that, we're not going to do this until tomorrow. The Senate's saying until next week. She says, all right, as of a minute ago, I want you down here for a special session. Talk to me about what a special session is and how much control the governor has, how much control the legislature has.
Well, a special session is really just like a regular session, except that they usually design it if they want to fast-track the passage of certain issues. For example, they used to do special sessions to pass the budget. It's quicker to pass the budget that way, and you can immediately start the time frame where the budget takes effect. And it's true for other bills that they've done before. You do a special session to do it. And in this particular case, the governor has to proclaim a special session. She has to specify what she wants to be included or to be tackled in that special session. In this case, she said it would be the budget and it would be Medicaid expansion. Now, of course, the Constitution essentially requires the legislature to meet when the governor makes that request for a special session, but there's no requirement for them to do anything. So the governor can call them to special session. They would potentially, in theory, could gavel into special session and just sit there and not do anything.
If they did sit there, though, at least if some sat there, and some apparently last night did sit there and not do anything, at least as a protest for the opening night, still, the votes are there for Medicaid expansion. So you can sit there and do nothing, but something's going to happen.
Yes, and what's really telling last night is that the House and Senate leadership did accede to the governor's request for a special session. They were the ones, Speaker Andy Tobin and Senate President Andy Biggs were the ones that presided over the chamber. That tells you that there was pressure on them. Remember, they are against Medicaid expansion. That tells you that there was pressure on them to accede to the governor's request. And at the end of the day, they said, yep, you've got the votes. We'll make it happen.
To basically do their jobs.
Yes.
Speaking of their jobs, there were rumors all over the place that they might lose their jobs in terms of leadership. How close did it come to literally a palace coup in the House, similar to what we saw in the Senate, and maybe even another palace coup in the Senate? Both leaders, Biggs and Tobin, being shown the door.
This is the first time that we've heard rumors about potentially ousting Andy Biggs. Now we've heard, Andy Tobin. We've heard that insofar as the Senate President before, but we were really surprised yesterday to hear speculation about or a potential plan to oust even Speaker Andy Tobin. And this goes back to what I told you. The governor can compel the leaders and the legislature to meet in a special session, but she couldn't really force them to do anything during that special session. And so there was this supposedly plan to go ahead and, if it came to that, replace the two leaders to ensure that the governor gets what she wants.
Which you could do with, what, a simple majority?
With a simple majority. It would be the 31 in the House and 16 in the Senate, essentially just voting for a new Senate President and a new Speaker.
Were there new Senate Presidents and Speakers lined up, ready to go?
Well, the other thing that's telling is that the budget bills that were introduced yesterday were introduced by Frank Pratt in the House and Steve Pearce in the Senate. And the speculation, the rumor,
right,
however you want to put it, was that they were prepared to go ahead and take over from Mr. Biggs and from Mr. Tobin. Okay,
so you got all this going on, and the governor calls a special session. Some lawmakers upset because their dinner was interrupted and these sorts of things. They got to run back down to the What was the response from Biggs and Tobin?
Well, it was pretty acerbic. They were not happy, and when I say they were not happy, that's an understatement. They basically accused her of being impetuous, of having overt hostility to the budget process. Essentially, they accused her of hijacking the budget process and forcing them to do something, and intervening in what should be a process that that belongs to the House and the Senate.
But certainly, you would think that they would have to know by these adjournments and just stretching it out and stretching it out. At some point, someone's going to say enough's enough. I mean, again, you're saying that Tobin in the House was perhaps buying time, perhaps hoping to cool some people off a little bit, and maybe address it on Thursday. I guess the governor's office said enough's enough.
Yeah, and obviously the governor has the votes to pass her budget and to pass Medicaid expansion, and to a certain extent, this has played on for a number of weeks, and the governor finally decided, that's it. Let's get this done.
Last point on this. None of this happens if there isn't a coalition of Republicans and almost all Democrats, I guess, together, working side by side, if you will, in the kind of cooperation that many haven't seen in a while down there. Talk to us about this coalition. Who's involved and who's left out there on the sidelines?
Well, this coalition of Republicans and all of the Democrats in both the House and the Senate, the Republicans are essentially the members of the so-called mainstream wing of the Republican caucus. These are Republicans that are viewed to be more pragmatic, less ideological about their stances on issues. And we've seen this caucus essentially emerge on certain crucial votes before, on the immigration, for example, the immigration debate a few years ago, some of the budget bills that we've seen a few years ago, and now we are seeing them again. So to a certain extent, this split within the caucus is really just being reaffirmed by what we're seeing now. Now, this would be folks like John McComish in the Senate, for example, and Mr. Frank Pratt in the House, for example. These are guys that live in districts that may be called swing districts. They are considered to be, like I said, more mainstream than the rest of their caucus.
All right. Representative Carl Seal, I think, had an interesting quote. He said the governor's legacy will be as the most effective Democratic governor in Arizona history. They're throwing spitballs at her. They're not happy.
By making that comment, he was probably being very gracious, because some of the tweets, some of the comments that we've seen were just really acerbic, and were really harsh.
And not with a smile. All right, Luigi, we will have, of course, more on the Friday Journalist Roundtable, but good information today. We'll let you get back to work. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Tonight's Focus on Arizona Technology and Innovation looks at Desert Silicon, a Tempe-based company that supplies materials and services to the semiconductor industry for use in the development of integrated circuits and other high-tech items. Joining us now is Tom Brown, president of Desert Silicon. Is it Silicon or Silicon?
Silicon.
Silicon. All right, I'll get that. Silicon Valley then, right? Same thing.
Right.
So that's kind of a general description of what your company does.
Right.
Give me a better definition.
What we do is we make coatings for wafers. And a typical semiconductor device can be made from 70 to 100 different coatings level by level by level. So if we can make one of those levels a little bit better, we can improve the efficiency, give greater yield, make things work better, give better performance.
I was going to say, so these are specialty coatings for these wafers. Right. And tell us more about why a wafer would need a specialty coating.
For example, LED lighting is becoming it's a high growth industry right now, and they're looking at putting LED lights in homes and other places. If you match the refractive index of a bottom layer with a top layer, you let more light go through. And so we have some new technology that makes that work better. We can improve the efficiency of lighting by about 15%, which is a really big difference for LED lighting.
And this is the process, correct me if I'm wrong now, looking through your material, like the process is called spin-on coating. What is that?
Right. So we take, to me it's almost like magic. It's really, really interesting. You take a liquid that's in a bottle, you pour it on a wafer that's spinning, and as the wafer spins, it turns from a liquid into glass, solid glass, just like in a window pane. And then we can make different types of glass that give different properties to these coatings for the wafers.
Now, how thin a glass and how thin a liquid are we talking here?
We vary. A really thick layer might be as thick as a human hair, like 100 microns or something. A typical one might be half of a micron or a tenth of a micron, so much, much smaller, very, very thin layers.
And these things would then eventually be used in what, phones and tablets?
It can be used in everything. We have companies using them to make better healthcare devices. We have companies that are making new energy conversion devices. One company wants to take the heat from a muffler and change that to electricity. So you could replace the alternator on a car, for example.
Interesting idea. You have some stuff here with you now. What are we looking at as far as...
so this is a silicon wafer.
Okay.
The silicon wafer has a thin coating on it. And sometimes you can see it a little bit better on the back of the wafer.
Okay.
That's kind of the green color that you see back there.
And was that spun on, as it were?
This layer wasn't spun on. This was put on by a more traditional method. Okay. But this is an example. We can create these same type of layers with a spin-on material.
Okay. What else you got over there?
A different type. Same type of thing, only a little bit different layer. And because it's different, it has a different color to it.
Yes.
The colors come by, they vary by how thick the layers are. It's like scales on a butterfly wing. They have a different reflectance depending on how thick they are. This is very similar to that.
Interesting. Now, does your company have a factory? Does it have a lab? How are these things produced? How is this spun-on coating done?
Well, for several years, we actually worked out of my partner's garage. He has a big garage on his property, and we would work and make materials there. What we've done, though, we have an investment from Max 6, which is a business incubator. And Max 6 really believes in conscious capitalism. That's what they're about, creating honorable businesses in the state of Arizona. And so we work with Max 6. They've funded us and they've given us space to work. We get a year of free rent in one of their facilities, and we're building a laboratory there to make a larger expansion where we can produce larger quantities of our chemicals.
How much room would you need for this kind of expansion?
Our materials are relatively expensive. A small bottle may cost a little over $1,000. So we don't need a lot of space. We have maybe 4,000 square feet of manufacturing space, and that's enough for us to make a lot of material.
So let's go through the process here. Let's say Ted's Tablet Company.
Right.
I call you and I say, I need something to improve the performance of my tablets. You say...
On our website, we have a page called Design a Glass.
Okay.
So someone can call us up exactly like you've said. They might say, we want to have a different refractive index to better match, or we might want to have a higher dielectric constant. Those are some of the calls we've got. A local company called Gamma Dynamics asked for a higher dielectric constant material. So then we go to our laboratory, we create and design a new material that will work better for their process.
Now, do you work mostly with big companies, small companies?
We do some of both, but a lot of small companies where new innovations are coming, we spend a lot of time with them.
I was going to say, as far as Arizona is concerned, now you're based at this company, your space, I should say, is in Tempe, correct?
That's correct.
Talk about Arizona and the opportunities, the high-tech opportunities we have here in the Valley and the state as a whole.
Well, we feel like we have a really important role because, you know, a number of years ago, if you wanted to have really creative people, what you might do is have a lot of machine shops where they'd, you know, grind metal and make things very precise and exact. Today we live in a different environment. For high-tech companies, they need new materials, and that's what we provide. And so we feel like we're an important part of the Arizona business ecosystem because we can help new companies get new innovative materials. They can have a giant step up ahead of other people because of what they're doing. And although we have orders, this week we've had orders from India and I can't remember, another country. We have them from all over the world. But we do focus a lot on Arizona also.
And that incubator helps quite a bit, I would imagine.
They do. You know, no one talks about this, but having a small business at times can be kind of a lonely job. You're trying to create something new. You're taking it to the rest of the world. Sometimes they love you, sometimes they hate you. And it's a good thing to be with other people that are trying to do the same thing. You can encourage each other and build on each other's work.
Well, thank you so much. It sounds like you got things going there. Good to have you here.
All right. Thank you very much.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
The Bridgestone Corporation recently broke ground on a new research facility in Mesa designed to produce biorubber from a desert plant. I talked about the project with Economic Development Project Manager for the City of Mesa. Shay, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Bridgestone, a tire rubber company. What are they building again now?
Yeah, we're very excited about the project. There's actually two components to the project. There's the Biorubber Research Process Center, which will be built in Mesa, and then there's also an agricultural operation that will be built down in Eloy. The research center in Mesa is a multi-million-dollar investment for Bridgestone to explore the use of the Waiuli plant as a natural source of rubber. If successful, the Waiuli plant will help Bridgestone meet the growing demand for rubber, growing global demand for rubber, and also relieve some of the reliance on the Hevea tree, which is currently the primary source for rubber that's used in production today. So down in Eloy, they're going to cultivate the Waiuli plant, which is just like a shrub, and then they'll ship it up to Mesa. The feedstock will be used in the processing center. The Mesa facility will be located on approximately 10 acres of property, and just a couple miles east of the Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport. And probably most importantly, it will support 40 high-wage jobs.
And we're looking at the Waiuli plant right here. This again, this is the site for the research center.
That's correct. Yeah.
And the site research center should eventually look like a pretty nice high-tech operation, correct?
Correct. Over time, yeah, they hope to expand, and if they can prove the commercial scalability of the process, they look to do a full-blown production facility.
Let's talk more about this Waiuli plant here. Okay. Where is it naturally found?
It's native in the Southwest.
So it's around here somewhere?
It's all over in New Mexico, northern Mexico, and Arizona.
And how does it become rubber? Or what? Without being too technical about it.
Yeah, because I'm not the guy for the technical stuff. But my understanding is there's a natural presence of rubber within the bark of the shrub. And the process that Bridgestone is working on perfecting extracts that rubber from the plant, and then it can be used in products like shoes, tires, and whatnot.
And now this is cheaper to make than synthetic rubber, or more environmentally?
I think that's what the challenge is if they can produce it at a price that's competitive, it'll start to relieve some of the reliance on the Hevea tree, which I mentioned earlier, which is the current primary source for rubber.
This area of Mesa, what part of Mesa are we talking about?
It's what we call the Mesa Gateway area, so it's the southeast corner of our city.
By the airport down there.
Correct.
Is it underdeveloped right now, or you have things going down there right now?
We have a lot of things going down there right now. We have a freeway under construction, State Route 24. Our airport, as you probably have heard, is growing like gangbusters.
Sure.
And this project is located just a couple miles east.
State Route 24.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
That'll be what's being built now is really the first extension of State Route 24 from Loop 202, which will go to about Ellsworth Road, if you're familiar with the area.
Loop 202 going south or going north?
South.
Going south.
Correct. And it'll loop right to the east side of the airport.
And isn't that isn't First Solar and Fujifilm somewhere in that general area?
That's right. Yeah, First Solar is also in the area. Fujifilm is actually right across the street from the location of the Bridgestone plant.
And you're saying how many jobs again? 40? You say
40 to start, and if they can grow the operation, we hope to see the job growth come as well.
what kind of jobs? What kind of wages?
High wage jobs, so above average wages, and they'll primarily be technicians and researchers. So those are the types of jobs we're trying to grow in Mesa. That's very much in line with our economic development strategy, which we affectionately call Mesa HEAT. And HEAT, of course, is the acronym that stands for Healthcare, Education, Aerospace, Technology, and Tourism.
Talk to us more about Mesa. We have the mayor on talking a little bit about this,
Sure.
but give us some more information here as to what the goal is and what the process has been and what you got going so far.
Yeah, so you probably have heard about our education initiative, which recently resulted in 5 high-quality higher learning institutions coming to Mesa: Albright College, Westminster College, Wilkes University, Benedictine University, and Upper Iowa University. Those universities were an economic development strategy, and we believe they'll complement our workforce development efforts, but also breathe some new life into downtown Mesa and West Mesa. So we're excited about that. Next up for us, we're in the process of finalizing our strategy now, is a healthcare strategy. We believe there's some sectors within the healthcare umbrella that are really strong opportunities for Mesa, and we look to take advantage of that.
Has this been easy to convince the Mesa movers and shakers? Because Mesa's had a reputation for years as being kind of a bedroom community. We don't want to get involved in all this kind of stuff. Sounds like you're getting involved in all this kind of stuff.
Well, we are extremely, I'm glad you brought that up, Ted. We are extremely fortunate to have the mayor and council that we have right now. They are very forward-thinking. In fact, they've set the economic development strategy for us, Mesa HEAT. And they've been very business-friendly and pro-economic development, which in some of these projects, like Bridgestone, for example, provides a certain comfort level for these companies to make these investments in our community, because they'll know that the projects won't be just supported, they'll be celebrated in Mesa.
Talk to us again a little bit about why Bridgestone decided. I mean, has Bridgestone had a presence in Arizona in the past?
I'm sure they've had some retail presence, but as far as a research facility, I'm not quite sure.
Right.
Why I think they chose Mesa, these big investment decisions, there's always a variety of factors that come in play. And for instance, like I mentioned, the Waiuli shrub is native to the southwest, so geographically their scope was somewhat narrow. But I think they chose Mesa for 3 reasons. And one is what I just touched on, the mayor and council and their pro-business, pro-economic development approach. But also, the East Valley boasts a very deep and talented workforce. So I think Bridgestone saw that they could meet their immediate workforce needs as well as their future human capital needs. And then lastly, the site that they chose had all the infrastructure in place. So water, sewer, gas, electric was all at the site. So from a timing perspective, Bridgestone could get started right away and could meet the deadlines that were set by the company for the investment.
I'm sure Mesa residents would especially want to know about incentives. Does it cost the city much to keep them there or get them to get to that location?
What's great about this project, there's no tax incentives involved. There's no fee waivers involved whatsoever. This is a relatively underdeveloped portion of the city. It's surrounded by large industrial users. So the only thing that we were able to work out with Bridgestone, they asked for a temporary deferral of some street improvements on Mountain Road, which is where the project's located, and the city council supported that. That's really the only deal point that we had with the project. So it's a great project all around.
Last question: when does the first Bunsen burner fire up out there? When does the research start?
So the construction's underway. They hope to have the facility operational by 2014 and hope to have their first rubber trial run in 2015.
Well, it sounds like fascinating stuff. A lot of stuff going on in Mesa. It's good to have you here. Thanks for
having us.
And Thursday on Arizona Horizon, we'll look at a survey that asks rural educators what they need to teach science and math, and we'll learn about a book that chronicles the oral history of the Yavapai Nation. That's at 5:30 and 10 on the next Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Support for Arizona technology and innovation on Horizon comes from Intel, helping to transform the lives of millions through education, working with countries, communities, and schools worldwide to bring the resources and solutions needed for advancing education. For information, Intel.com.